Some 150 farm workers recently marched to the Labour Centre in Paarl. This after new research by the Women on Farms project found poor working conditions in fair trade certified farms. Workers are demanding better living conditions on Western Cape farms. We're now joined by Colette Solomon, director at the Women Farms project, who commissioned the research. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Colette. Maybe let's start with how the research was conducted and what you were looking for.
Sure. So thank you very much for having us to discuss the fair trade research. So over the years, Women on Farms project has received various incidents, reports of rights violations on fair trade farms, so on a case-by-case basis, farm-by-farm basis. And then we decided to commission research that would look at what labour and living conditions on fair trade farms is like, and we commissioned that research in 2022, and we were able to include 75% of all fair trade certified wine farms. So the research was done by interviewing farm workers on different fair trade farms. We did one-on-one interviews, focus group discussions, key informant interviews, and so on. And we then released the findings last week as part of our Human Rights Day event.
Sure. So when we speak of fair trade certified farms, what are we speaking about and what standards are they held to?
Well, to receive fair trade certification, producers, farmers have to subscribe to comply with fair trade standard, what is called the fair trade standard. It stipulates various issues regarding labor rights, regarding the premium. So it's important just to mention what distinguishes fair trade certified wines farms from other farms is that the consumer would pay an extra amount of money, which is called the premium. And this premium is then sent back to the farm, and the farm workers are supposed to decide how that money is to be spent. So what developmental empowerment issues, projects they want to tackle. And to get certified, there are audits and farmers have to comply with this fair trade standard. And the fair trade standard, just to give you an example of what it aspires to be, it says to combat poverty, strengthen the position of farm workers so that they're able to take more control of their lives. The requirements ensure that employers pay decent wages, guarantee the right to join trade unions, and make certain that health, safety, and environmental principles are adhered to. So in order to gain and to retain your certification, fair trade producers are supposed to comply with this fair trade standard.
And let's get into the findings of the research, because you found that while some have done a great job, there are others that are found wanting. 25 of those surveyed have poor or very poor housing for workers. 31% of workers earn less than the minimum wage of 25 Rand 42 cents an hour, which takes away this notion of having a control over their lives.
Absolutely. So, in order just to present some of the better or more positive findings. So, one thing that was good and maybe better than most fair trades, non-fair trade certified farms is that 89% of workers have access to clean drinking water at their homes. Nearly all the farms, the workers had written contracts, which is not necessarily the case on non-fair trade certified farms. And the other positive thing was that all workers, both permanent and casual workers, were registered for unemployment insurance, and the requisite deductions were being made for UIF. So those are all good things. However, given that the fair trade farms are supposed to be this gold standard, this aspirational certification that basically is supposed to empower workers. Therefore, it is shocking that we found that nearly a third of workers were earning less than the national minimum wage. And even those that were earning the national minimum wage, we found that when one includes them, 60% of workers were earning less than the cost of a nutritious basket of food. So just to develop that point, so the Household Affordability Index has determined that the cost of a nutritious food basket in the Western Cape in 2022 was 4,688 rand. And 60% of workers were earning less than that. And this is, like I said, on fair trade farms, which is supposed to be qualitatively better and supposed to materially be an improvement for the lives of farm workers. And as a woman, another shocking statistic that we found was that 35%, so that is more than 1 in 3 women surveyed, don't have access to a toilet in the vineyard. So for the duration of the day that they are picking grapes, they do not have access to a toilet. So they have to make use of the bush, they have to make use of the vineyards, they're working alongside men. And in the focus group discussions, women spoke very powerfully, very movingly about the indignity they experience every day by having to relieve themselves in bushes and in the vineyards alongside their male counterparts.
In 2023, there is this premium that there's this premium that you speak of, right? So when I go purchase a bottle of wine, there's also that amount that I am charged, which is then supposed to go to the farm workers, and there's various initiatives that they can have a say on, right, and decision-making on. So what did you find where those premiums are concerned? Do they go to where they're intended to go?
Yeah, so it's also then, it's important to look at the general labor conditions which we've discussed now, like working contracts, UIF, toilets in the vineyards, national minimum wage. Those are sort of general legal labor standards that are supposed to be complied with on all farms. But what makes fair trade farms different is this premium. And the specific thing is it's supposed to be controlled and managed by workers. And what we found that of all the farms that we spoke to, only on 20% of the farms can one say that women are well represented on the premium committee. The workers decide on what's going to happen, how they're going to use the premium money. So you can say on 20% of the farms it is what it is supposed to be. However, on the other farms, like on 60% of the farms, we still find that farmers exercise a great deal of decision making over how the premium money is going to be spent. And on a further 16% of the farms, farmers exercise primary control over the premium budget. So in other words, on 76% of the farms, workers are not actually the primary decision makers of how the premium is going to be spent.
Where's the gatekeeper? And in this instance, that would be the Labour Department, which is what the farm workers are calling on for more inspections, for them to be present much more.
Absolutely. So that's why last week the farm workers marched to the Department of Employment and Labour, because at the end of the day, they are the custodians of our labour laws. And the inspectorate of the Department of Employment and Labour is supposed to undertake regular, effective inspections on farms. And the fact that such a high incidence of non-compliance, of rights violations can be taking place on fair trade certified farms really points to the fact that inspections are not happening effectively, not happening optimally, and therefore, of course, fair trade has a responsibility to ensure that farmers who are certified, are complying. But at the end of the day, our government, the Department of Employment and Labour, has the ultimate responsibility to ensure that the labour laws, the general labour laws of the country, are complied with on all farms in South Africa, including fair trade farms. So the fact that we've got such a high incidence of non-compliance with the minimum wage, with toilets in the vineyards, with pesticide exposure, that responsibility we're putting fairly and squarely at the door of our Department of Employment and Labour.
Colette, very quickly for us, because you also got this term ethical buying, right? So where the consumer actually has some power in trying to fix the situation or being more conscious in terms of the value chain and the person that is being impacted that actually is responsible for you enjoying that glass of wine. Is there anything that you and I can do, also keeping into mind that you don't want people to lose their jobs?
Absolutely. So I think what farm workers themselves are saying is that consumers must just exercise their economic power. So ask questions when you go for a wine tasting on a farm. Ask questions about what the labor conditions are of the farm workers who produce the wine. When you're buying bottles of wine in the supermarket, also ask the supermarket to find out what's happening on farm. So there is a responsibility of human rights due diligence all along the value chain. As consumers, we are part of that value chain. We've got lots of economic power, and if we do ask the difficult questions and producers know that consumers are asking questions about labor conditions on farms, etc., that will also force them to toe the line. Because if there's one thing that makes farmers actually change their behavior, it's when their profits are in jeopardy. And therefore, like I say, consumers do have a lot of power because farmers will sit up and take notice if consumers start threatening not to buy their brand or not coming to their farm for wine tastings and so on. So we are saying, consumers, use your economic power. Ask difficult questions. Write emails to various wine producers and estates and so on. When you go for wine tasting, ask about what the conditions are of farm workers. Ask if they pay the minimum wage. Ask if they have toilets in the vineyards. Ask if they are exposed to pesticides. So once farmers know that consumers are conscious and are concerned about the human rights of farm workers, that will, I think, be one of the most effective ways in which we can force them to change their behavior.
Colette Solomon is the director at the Women Farms Project. Thank you, ma'am, for your time.